Alright, welcome back. Continuing from where we left off. We left off with a few PMD errors here and some PMD issues with incompatible class change errors. I made a prediction that the problem had to do with IntelliJ's configuration not being set up for JDK version 17, which is not correct. I have 17 in both places where I want it. And so this isn't an IntelliJ related issue. So I did some Googling on it, and I did find in the PMD plugin issues, this was identified as an issue, and it has been fixed in 3.16.0 of the plugin. We're using 3.15.0, which is the one that is broken. I did check Maven. 3.16.0 is not available yet. But they do describe some workarounds in here, which is basically to add this dependency to the plugin. So I'll copy paste this and we'll move it over. I also see this example code, and they have this link cross-ref set to false. I suspect if I specify this, then I won't need the JXR plugin that I've put in here and in the reporting section down below, just to allow PMD to run successfully. So I'll go ahead and add a dependencies section and paste in that dependency that they reference as the workaround. And let's go ahead and build. Let's see if that clears up these warnings here. All right, so it did clear up those warnings. So this dependency does fix that issue, like the workaround from this web page described. Let's go ahead and try this out as well. So I'll copy this, paste it in my configuration here, and then I'll get rid of this JXR plugin. And all the places I have it defined, and we'll go ahead and do another build. We'll just make sure that PMD continues to work even without that JXR stuff, now that we've got the linking disabled. Okay, so that does seem to work. We do still get these errors here, PMD failures. So let's go ahead and resolve those. Too many static imports. It claims that too many static imports may lead to messy code. That seems questionable if you ask me, but I guess who am I to to argue with PMD? So it says we've got too many statics. It looks like we've got about 8 lines here with static variables in them. So we can shrink this down a little bit. For example, those two, string dot format and optional. Oops. Optional dot of null. That does push me over the limit a little bit on my lines. I don't know how many it thinks are okay. Let's go ahead and run this again. So we also have this HTTPS that we could remove. Okay, so it's still complaining about it. Let's do HTTP scheme here, which deleted that one. Let's do HTTP version here. I guess I'll go ahead and do a line break here. Okay, I lost my config keys. Oh no, I did have my config keys. I lost my system keys. Let me do that. All right, now both are found. Let's see if that's good enough. So we've got 3 different ones here. We could get rid of this no sessions as well. All right, so now we've got unused imports. It seems to not like these wildcard imports. Somewhere in here, preferences. Let's look at imports. So I don't see anything about when to expand or wildcard imports. I don't know. Rather than looking for that, I'll go ahead and get rid of these lines. I'll go ahead and get rid of those sessions as well. Servlet context handler. And we'll go ahead and add config key in here. And here as well. All right, so we basically just deleted all of our static imports. There's definitely pros and cons of using PMD. One thing that we could have done is add a custom configuration. I need to add system keys in here as well. These lines are definitely getting long. I could break this up a little bit. Like I'd put these or else's on the next line. I forgot what I was saying. Something like pros and cons with PMD. And we could implement a custom PMD rule set that's a lot more flexible with things like static imports. I'm not going to take the time to do that at this point. We'll just kind of conform to what it's looking for. I don't necessarily agree with some of them, like the comment that said static imports might make your code more difficult to read, or whatever the statement was. That sounds questionable, if you ask me. Regardless, we've updated everything. Now we're building just fine. So let's see what we've modified. So we updated config usage to use enums. All right, so we got that pushed up. Now I also did some Googling around. I added this application init param key, which is this Jakarta WSRS application. I mentioned that probably somewhere there was a string value for that defined, and I was able to find it within this servlet properties class, which is in a Jersey dependency that we've added. There is a JAXRS application class. So I'm going to get rid of this and use JAXRS application. And I just cleaned out all my static imports, so I'll go ahead and was it servlet properties? Okay, there it goes. All right, so now we've gotten rid of that one private static final variable that we added just for this, and we'll use the Glassfish version instead. Oops. I will have that. We'll run that in the background. All right, so now we've got everything up and running. Everything looks good. We've done some cleanup here. The next thing I want to do is we've added our enumerations here. We're kind of making some assumptions that this stuff works. We're making some assumptions here that this stuff works as well, because we didn't implement any kind of unit tests or anything like that. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and add the infrastructure for unit and integration tests. If I remember, we already have the plugins here. I see the failsafe plugin, and I see the Surefire plugin. So we do have our plugins available. But let's go ahead and add some dependencies so that we can, or at least a dependency, so that we can do unit testing. The common, or one of the common Java unit testing libraries is JUnit. There are a couple of them. JUnit, it's the older one. It's still kept reasonably up to date. February is not too terribly long ago. The newer version is JUnit 5. This is JUnit 4 is the latest. Yeah, 4.13. JUnit 5 is implemented via this JUnit Jupyter stuff. So there's all kinds of packages here. I don't recall exactly off the top of my head which one we want. There might be a BOM that contains kind of all of these. I thought there might be just a JUnit artifact. Let me delete this and see if it finds it. Nope. So let's go ahead and we'll use this one, JUnit Jupyter. I don't know what this has in it compared to like JUnit Jupyter API. I could probably Google this out, but just for now, I'll just get this one and see what happens. So let's copy this. It's org.junit. I guess we'll put it down here. Now we do have scope test here because this dependency is only going to be used as part of testing, which makes sense. So I'll go ahead and copy this. We've got our config key and system key here in server. So I'll go ahead and update our server POM and add this test dependency in here. Let me actually move it below Glassfish. It's actually used for unit and integration testing, so I'll just call it testing. We don't need this version. Technically, we don't need the scope either, since we define the scope at the top level. However, I do typically keep the scope in here just to make it obvious when glancing through here that this is only used in testing scope. So technically it's not necessary, but I think it aids in readability to keep it in here, so I'm going to keep it in here. Let's go ahead and tell Maven to reload this project so we can get this on the class path. All right, let's close these POMs. Let's close the server, and let's start implementing some unit tests. Okay, so with Maven, we've got source main Java, and that's where our compile time classes go. Our test time classes go in source test Java. So I'm going to right click here, new directory, and then I get source test module as an option here. So I'll go ahead and click on it. Now my test package is going to follow the same pattern as my Java, my main packages. So let me do new package com.tutorialapi.server.config. Let's go ahead and create a new config key test class. Let's see if, okay, so we've got our test annotation that comes from org.junit.jupyter. Let's do public void test. Let's actually split this down so we can see it. I usually split to the right, but I've got my font big and my window small, so I can see, or so you guys can see it better. Let's add a test for get key. Now let's do, let's add an assert. Let's see what asserts we get. Okay, so there's an assertions dot assert equals, and let's do server.keystore.file. So that's what we're expecting to get back whenever we call config key dot server keystore file dot get key. Okay, so let's go ahead and run all the tests in this class, which there's only one, and verify that this does what we want. All right, so we've got some green, which means our test ran successfully. When we run over here, I can say Maven test and verify that our tests are actually run from the command line as well. Okay, so here we go. So we don't have any tests in our REST module, so I see no tests to run up here. However, In our server module, I do see that we ran one test, and it was in the config key test class, and that it took 34 milliseconds to run, and everything was successful. So we do have some tests there that are up and running. I'm not going to go into implementing a bunch of tests, but just getting the infrastructure up and running so that we can do more testing as we move forward. I did mention that we basically need to do the same tests in here, since we have effectively the same code in here, and really that should be moved probably to a parent class. Parent classes are a little bit tricky with enums, but we could probably make it work out. But I'm going to ignore that for now. Let's see. I guess we'll take a break here. It's been 15 minutes for this video. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. And we'll come back and make some more progress in the next video. All right. See you later. Bye.